Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Blueprint podcast, powered by Lapolis Electric. I'm your host, Stephen Marcelino, Vice President of Sales with Lapolis Electric. Lapolis Electric is a full-service electrical construction company that has been in business for 40 years, and we're happy to kick off the year 2025 with a brand new guest, Paul Carassone, also known as the Property Boss. Paul, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks for the invite, and you're welcome very much.
Thank you, sir. So listen, I know you and I have been talking a lot over the last couple of weeks, anticipating today's episode, and I want to kind of just come out of the gate and address something for a lot of entrepreneurs and people that may be trying to break into your space of real estate investment, and that is, have you ever failed on your journey leading up to the point of success that you're at now when breaking into the real estate investment space?
Absolutely. You're never going to win unless you have a couple of flops. So you will fail.
So break that down a little bit. You're never going to win unless you have a couple of flops, which I completely agree with. I think any successful businessman or woman has faced some sort of adversity and or failure to learn from their mistakes to get to the point that they're at today.
Well, just in life in general, other business I've owned before getting into real estate, there were definitely failures in there. You know, when I was, 19 years old, I opened up a deli. That didn't last long.
What was your specialty in the deli?
Mozzarella.
Mozzarella?
Yes.
You make a nice Italian sub?
I sure did.
Oh, so you know how to make mozzarella?
Of course.
Oh,
what kind of Italian would I be if I don't know how to make mozzarella?
I should have brought a bowl and some curds here. We could have made some fresh mozzarella for the viewers.
There would have been a charge for that.
Yeah, no, that's giving away family secrets right there.
But in real estate, you get hit with failures often. Think about it this way. Tenant doesn't pay you rent. A tenant goes bad and you have to evict them. That's a failure. Where does that failure come from? Well, what was the background check like? Did you do your due diligence on that tenant? Or did you get comfortable and just let him ride? Mm-hmm. That's a failure. And there's something or somebody somewhere failed, and you've got to check out the back office to see what's going on. Yeah, of course, there's certain things you can't control. However, this is one of them. You have to go the extra mile and do your due diligence on every tenant, especially today.
Yeah.
Today's the new scheme where people just want to move in and they don't want to pay. I don't know what's going on with society, but that's the way it is, man. Yeah, it is.
So on that topic, where is the volume of your properties? Is it in New York?
New York. All my properties are in New York.
All your properties are in New York? And I know that New York probably has the most lenient, laws when it comes to protecting tenants.
Yes.
So what is, the risk mitigation strategy for a property owner so you don't get, screwed over by somebody that doesn't want to pay rent? Or is that kind of like a loaded question?
Risk mitigation. But let's look at that for 1 second. You can do the typicals, background check, account stubs, things like that. Rent, you look at the rental history of the prospective tenant. You call their landlord. You call their work. Wherever they're working, you want to know. You want to see bank statements, things like that. And then, of course, there are private companies that you use that do background checks, credit checks, things like that, And there are certain things you want to look for on the credit check. People go through hard times, and we don't immediately disqualify you for a bad credit check, a bad credit number. Why? We look at the background, and we see there may have been a medical problem there. If there was a medical problem, and you've been paying all your bills since then, your number may still be low, but I'm not going to bounce you just because of that. I'm not going to deny you because of that. Maybe you went through a divorce. There are things you can do to prove to me that you're not somebody who's just going to move into the apartment and treat me like everybody else. Now, if you don't pay anybody, well, then there's a really good chance you're not going to pay me either.
Yeah.
So why would I accept you?
100%.
So, it has a lot to do with common sense. Here's what happens with a lot of people. They have an empty apartment. They're panicking. So what happens when they panic? They want to fill the door right away. The second you do that, you got a problem. Because sooner or later, one of those tenants are going bad. I've seen people, management wise, when we were doing third party management, which we pretty much are getting out of that. But when we were doing it, we were getting building owners coming to us that 60% of the tenants weren't paying.
Wow.
And why? Because you have people, they're using other management companies, which I'll say it, sucked.
Yeah.
And they were just filling the doors. Filling the doors, why? Because they get a body in the door. Why? Now they get a turnover fee, right? Person went out, person came in, month's rent for them. All right, everybody likes to negotiate the management fee. Nobody looks at the other numbers. If somebody tells me, oh, I got an 8% management fee with my management company, I'll say, yeah, you better add on another 7 to 10% on that number. Because turnovers, things like that, it's all the a la carte services that the management company is really making the money on. Maintenance, turnover, lease renewals, things like that.
To stick on maintenance for a minute, just because that's the world I live in. You know, I do a lot of building maintenance. I work with a lot of management companies. How important is property maintenance, not only to yourself as the building owner, but to the people living inside of the building to justify those fees that the management company is incurring on the building and in turn its tenants?
How important is it? It's very important. You want to do the work. However, part of the problem is you cannot blame the management company for things they don't know about.
100%.
You can blame them for shoddy work,
Yep.
or you can blame them for being notified and not handling a situation. And then what happens when you don't fix something? It gets worse, especially when it comes to water.
Yeah.
You know, that is a big problem. You get a water leak in an apartment. If you don't fix it, what happens to that water? It runs somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now, maybe it goes down below to the apartment below you. Now, there's a ceiling problem there. And add water tax on top of that. The water meter keeps spinning and spinning and spinning. That's another problem. So, you know, you've got to stay on top of the management company to make sure they're on top of the apartments.
Yep.
Now, there's the other side to that coin. A lot of times, tenants don't notify the management company. Before you know it, you walk into an apartment, there's all kinds of problems.
100%.
But I never knew about it. And a lot of these problems come to light when somebody's being evicted.
Yep.
All of a sudden, there's 100 different problems in the apartment that nobody knew about. So you've got to keep records. Management has got to keep records. And you as an owner better be on touch. Better be on point. Better be in touch with everybody, tenants and managers.
Definitely. Funny story that you brought up, actually, about people being evicted. So I was called into a building down in Manhattan. I'm not going to disclose the company name or address just out of confidentiality for them, but they needed to evict one of their tenants, and their electrical usage was through the roof.
Residential?
Residential.
Okay.
So they called me and said, "Steven, we need you to come in when we get the the sheriffs had to get called in, FDNY. It was a big problem. This person was." They pretty much built their own electrical infrastructure and mechanical HVAC infrastructure inside of their apartment. And what they were doing was, what we got called in to do, we had to demolition everything that this person had built. They were mining Bitcoin inside of their apartment, and they were tapping off all the other tenants' electricity through the meter banks in the hallways to bring more power into their apartment. So their electrical usage was as if they owned 15 units in the building, but they were one tenant. If you went in, I'm not going to lie, as an electrical contractor, their work was pretty clean. And, you know, they had in a data center something called crack units set up, which is like a cooling unit proprietary to that space to keep all their computers cooled. And it was insane. So you talk about evicting people, some of the stuff you see, and I'm sure that you've seen when evicting, whether it's situations where somebody brings in their own power infrastructure to mine Bitcoin, or some of the nastier conditions that people create that I've seen working in some of the buildings that I take care of in Brooklyn and some other boroughs in Manhattan. It's actually insane to see the way people are willing to live to work the system. It's crazy to me. So, you know, it's funny when you look at it from that side, and you know, I've never been on the property management or owner side, but I've assisted property management and property owners in kind of helping them get out of bad situations, so to speak. Turning the conversation a little bit, something I'm really curious about, because obviously a guy of your stature, you're very successful and you have a large portfolio and you've built a life that a lot of people dream of having, so to speak. What was your financial vehicle to get you to the point you're at to be able to make the real estate investments that you make today?
Well, number one, my first piece of property I picked up when I was 18 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I was able to get it for dirt. I bought it from my mother, and I held it. But that is not how I got into real estate. Pick up a piece here, pick up a piece there. It was, my father also had a couple of buildings in the Bronx.
Gotcha.
So I was always in supermarkets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I worked in supermarkets my whole life.
Nice.
All right. Then from there, I left the stores and I became a tin knocker, which is a sheet metal worker.
Yep. But
always trying to put money away, always putting money away. And working in the supermarkets, you look at people working in the supermarkets, you look at them and look down on them. Believe me, the education you get from working there, especially if you're up in management, if you can get yourself up into a management position, you can do well. You can live a very nice life working in stores. However, the education you get, the business acumen that you pick up, because now you're scheduling, you're working with your employees. It's a people's job.
Yeah.
And then it's a money job. You have to learn how to handle everything so the store remains profitable.
Yep.
Because remember, you're not answering to yourself. You work for somebody. You're answering to your bosses.
Yep.
So doing that put a good head on my shoulder for business-wise. Then I had an opportunity to buy a building, my brother and I, to buy a building from my father, who bought a couple of buildings upstate, bought 2 properties upstate, and both were failing miserably. So he really couldn't work his head around why they were going down so quickly and so hard.
Gotcha.
So he asked me to come in, take a look at the numbers. My brother started working in the office with him, and I went in, I broke the numbers down. And I said, look, I got to tell you, man, you will be penniless within 6 months to a year.
Oh, wow.
Well, how do I fix it? We need to get on top of this. Can you do it? I said, well, absolutely, I can do it. And then I came in and started straightening out the company, finding where the problems were, fixing the problems, fixing the financial problems the buildings had. And one of the financial problems was being lied to about the amount of empties from the on-site manager.
Wow.
I mean, you're talking about a property with 70 units and something like 40 empties.
How did they get away with that?
When you're out of touch with your property, you can get away with a lot. And that's a problem with, when owning a building is one thing. Managing a building is a different animal entirely. So if you don't know the management side of it, you're going to run into a problem.
Gotcha.
All right? People, you get all the superstars out there on social media. Everybody's a guru. And all these people are telling you, you know what, all you got to do is buy the property, hire a management company. No, that's the worst thing you can do. If you don't know, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah. People will play you.
Right. I went into the office, and my father says, "Can you fix it?" I said, "Yes." He says, "How can we work this?" I says, "I'll buy the buildings from you." And he says, "Well, what about Mark?" I says, "When I say I mean Mark and I, my brother."
Gotcha.
So we wound up buying the buildings from him. He held paper. And then we just took over and went to the races. And then before you know it was about 5 years later, 6 years later, you had 2007 hit. No, it was maybe a little bit longer than that. 2007 hit. I was able to straighten out the buildings, get them all rented, and then refi them just in time for the collapse.
Wow. So timing is everything.
Timing is everything. And we bought a bunch of properties for pennies on a dollar.
Wow.
And that was it, man. It was off to the races after that.
So you used the opportunity of, I would call the recession back in '08 to fuel your portfolio.
Oh, absolutely.
And pick up properties in a situation where other people weren't able to do any business.
Yes, but going into that, we had 119 and 60. So was that 119, 20, 179?
Wow.
Is that math right? I don't know. Check it out. Get a calculator.
We'll check it later. we'll do a quick playbook play on this when the episode releases and do the math.
There you go.
So from the first property you bought, do you still hold that property?
Yes, I do.
That's beautiful. So from that point to today, how many units do you own?
I don't tell anybody that.
You don't tell anybody? Nope. It's a secret.
It is.
It's the secret sauce.
Look at it this way. Number one, it puts a target on my back with all my tenants. They don't
Correct.
need to know that.
Yeah,
that's number one.
That's true.
Puts a target on my back with everybody else. Which, I mean, I get it. Yeah, I'm on social media, blah, blah, blah. I get that. Yeah. However, nobody needs to know all that about me. That's one. And if I told you I have 100 units or 1,000 units, would it make anything I'm telling you any less true?
No.
Exactly. So what I have is irrelevant.
Gotcha. It's it's not about what you own. It's about the knowledge you possess.
It's the experience. That's right.
It's the experience. So you mentioned something before that I know you and I pre-gamed and discussed. The social media gurus. What is your take on the social media gurus? One, it's a two-part question, and to counteract all the BS that's out there about real estate, how to buy, how to manage, that side of it. What is your formula to be successful? Because I know you talk a lot about the gurus versus your formula, and you're sitting in front of me. You're a real person. You're not just a guy on a phone. You know what I mean? Some of these people that are on social media, you may never see them in your life. For all you know, they're AI-generated profiles.
Never know.
AI's scary this day and age. We're not going to go down that path. But so to bring it back, what's your outlook on the social media gurus and the advice that people should be weary of? And break a little bit into your formula after you touch on that.
Social media gurus, they come with a nice smile. I'm not saying they're all bad. Please don't get me wrong, because I do know some of them. And some of them are genuine and truthful.
100%.
They want to see people succeed. They want to see people move ahead. And they do have the experience to pass that along. But that is such a small percentage of what's out there. Number one, you want to be a guru? Own real estate. Don't think you're going to teach me about real estate because you used to own real estate. No. I want to know that you still own real estate. I want to know that you're still in it and playing it because rules change, things change. So how can I expect you to teach me something if you're no longer doing it? Okay? It's like teaching somebody who's working on a horse and buggy trying to come and teach me how to fix a car.
Yep.
It's just not going to work. All right? It doesn't work that way. So these people have to be in the business. And then, of course, you hire a good team, you get a good crew, you sound flashy, you're this, you're that. Bullshit. All right? Maybe you have a 4-story walk-up, just started doing this the other day, and all of a sudden, you got 100,000 followers and you're a superstar. Yeah. No, I'll call you out in a hot second. Okay? Because these people, yes, you get on social media, you hope to make money. Yes. I'd be lying to you if I told you that wasn't my end game. However, I also want to see people succeed. And to do that, you've got to give them the right information. You've got these guys who started in this business 4 or 5 years ago. I'm sorry. You haven't been in it long enough to start teaching me about real estate.
And that's dangerous, too, to the industry. Because
yes.
you have people, if they amass a following of 100,000 people, that's a lot of people looking at you.
Yep.
So, you have 100,000 people watching you, and if all 100,000 people follow that person, not saying, maybe a percentage of that 100,000, but for conversational purposes, if you take 100,000 people and saturate the real estate market with bad information, that kills everybody.
That's right. And that's what's happening. All right. How do you get into real estate? Oh, you get a credit card. You get a credit card. Then what you do is you get your down payment. You start an LLC. You do this. You do that. Before you know it, you're buying a piece of property, 100% levered. Now you've got 100% debt on it. Now what? Now you're already upside down. And these guys, I mean, you talk about people who started 2000, 2018, 2019, you do see a lot of people going out of business today. Why? Because they started out with too much debt. They listened to the gurus. Just get into it. Hire a manager, but just get into it. Never talking to them about what it takes, the fundamentals of actually succeeding in real estate. These people don't teach you that. They tell you how to go about getting into your first property, never telling you how to inspect that property, never telling you how to negotiate that property, never telling you what you should be doing with your attorney, with your banker, your mortgage broker, whoever you're using, with your accountant, to iron everything out so it's just the sweet spot when you finally do get into it. Never telling you that you are the one with the money, so you are the one with all the leverage. You're the one in charge on any deal. Just because somebody's selling a deal, just because you like it, doesn't mean you have to buy it. See, what separates me from a lot of people is there's no deal out there that I have to buy. You may have to sell it, but I certainly don't have to buy it. Not unless it's coming in with my numbers, my comfort level. You know, I talk to a lot of these guys out there. Oh, Paul's the patient buyer. You're damn fucking right I'm the patient buyer. Yep. You better believe it. I'll be patient, because if I pass on this deal, I'll grab the other one. Yeah. Doesn't matter to me.
There's always opportunity.
Yeah, it's always out there.
Yeah. So what to I guess protect yourself from those bad deals? What's that like key piece of advice you could give to newer investors, so to speak, to
learn
to make sure that they don't make those mistakes?
Learn the market. You have to learn the market. You have to know where it is you're buying. And why are you buying there? Why? Because you have money in your pocket? No, that's not why. You have to go to a market, study the market, understand that market. Why is this happening? Why is this not happening? Why is 3 blocks away so much nicer, and over here I don't want to walk through it? Why? What is the difference? What will make this block change? So these are the things you have to know. These are the things you have to understand. Because if you make those mistakes, there's a really good chance you're going to overpay for a piece of property in a neighborhood that's never going to bring you upside, in a market that the rules and regulations are so tight, you'll never be able to get upside in rents. And then another thing you need to know this one. I'm giving away too much. You need to know.
Listen in, everybody. He's about to drop a gem for you.
Yeah, man. What are the rules? What are the regulations in the particular municipality you're looking to buy in? What happens if I want to change a light fixture? Do I have to go down and get a building permit?
Yeah.
Because every time I have to fix a sink, change a fixture, do something like that, it's a $300, $400, $500 building permit.
Yep.
No, man, I'm sorry. Then
you
you have to hire a contractor to come in. No. This, to fix a faucet in certain municipalities, you would have to go through all that nonsense. And then what happens? Before you know it, that $20 faucet you had to slap on was costing you $500.
Yeah.
That's not how you say in business. That is not. Real estate is a business. It's not a game. I hate when fucking people say, get in the game. No. Let's get in the game.
Yeah, that's a big problem too. You know, I've noticed, because I'm really interested in real estate in my personal, business endeavors. So I do a lot of research, reading, and because of that, all this, like we said before, artificial intelligence picks up my algorithm, and all these gurus pop up left and right, because they're buying all the ad space. And you hear all the time, oh, you don't need any money to buy real estate, like you said before. And I'm saying to myself, just because I'm like a very, critical, like I think, I use common sense. That's the word I'm looking for. I feel like if 90% of the people just used common sense, they wouldn't get screwed. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, how are you getting a piece of property with no money? To me, that just sounds like in 5 years, I'm putting myself and my family in financial trouble, because the debt collectors are going to call in. Everybody's going to start calling in. And now that piece of property that I got magically without any money is going to be owned by the bank. That's all that says to me.
Yes. I mean, here, for example, multifamily commercial real estate, number one, banking is very different. Okay? When you go out and buy a one-family house, it's incumbent upon you to prove to the bank that you're capable of paying that mortgage back through your salary. When you're dealing with commercial stuff, multifamily, then it's incumbent upon the building to pay that mortgage back. That's super important.
What does that mean?
That means that the building has to be collecting enough rent to pay that mortgage, not you. Your job is not what's to prove how to pay the rent. It's the building has to prove how to pay the rent. And then, how are you capable of controlling the expenses? Because if you don't know the business, then you don't know what the expenses should be. If you don't know real estate, then you'll never know what the expenses are supposed to be. And again, back to learning the market. You've got to get into the market. What's changing? Any new rules coming in? Are they looking to change things? Here, for example, bought a property 2005, 2006, something like that. 70 units, one house, 71, and 5 garages. Ran the numbers, sweetheart deal. Ran the numbers, go to buy it. Everything was beautiful. We buy the building, we close on the building. 2 weeks later, after we own it, after we close on it, 2 weeks goes by, and then we get a letter from the city. And the city tells us they're no longer going to be picking up the garbage at the property. It is now up to us to hire a private sanitation company to pick up the garbage. So here's an expense I never had. But do you think that the city would have reduced the taxes because they were taking away a service? No, they did not. So now, not only did you get an expense, but you still had to pay the old expense. Think about that. Yep. And then something else nobody thinks about is what happens when you buy this property. It gets reassessed.
Yep.
Okay? Now your taxes go up based off of the sale price. So you have a higher tax bill, and then this comes in. So you can handicap yourself right from the beginning if you don't know the business.
Yeah.
If you don't know what's going on in a particular market, you can hurt yourself. These are the things you have to learn. Like I said, learn the area before you jump into it. You have to know the area because something like this, you're working too tight.
It's very true.
And then you get a lot of these people go out and take what? Floating rates. Floaters. Interest only. I mean, listen, you know what? If you're not in this business for a while, those are the things you want to stay away from. Floating interest rate? Look at what happened in 2007 with floating interest rates. Rates bounced up. People lost everything.
Killed them.
Yeah. You think that didn't happen over the last few years? Of course. People are losing properties left and right.
I believe it.
Here, example. I know I say don't sell. I'm not a seller. But there are times when you maybe want to trade up. So you maybe have to sell to trade up because you need to do a 1031. And if you bought right in the beginning, what's going to happen is you will have the ability to scale up.
Gotcha.
Okay? So now I go look at a building about, 2 months ago. Beautiful building, Madison Avenue. 90 million.
Wow.
I run the numbers. Fuck is up with this? I call my mortgage broker. I said, Matt, run this number because I'm coming up with 45 million. For me to make any kind of money on this property, I've got to get it for 45 million. He runs the numbers. He says, you're right, and the bank will never give you anything close to what you're going to need to buy this building. So think about if you don't know how to buy, you're going to get crushed. Now, there are people out there who would fix that problem by paying more cash for it. That ain't me. That is not me. If the deal don't make sense with 25% down, I run.
That's it.
That's it. 25 is my cap. If I have to put 30, 35, 40, 50% down, it's not the deal for me.
No,
I don't need it.
You're putting too much personal money into it.
I don't need it. I don't need the aggravation because now I'm trying to make that deal work when it didn't work from the beginning.
Wow.
It's the way I buy.
So how did it come about that the property was 90 million and your calculations and your bank's calculations were half? What were they were they just being pigs about how to profit on the property? Or?
No. They were trying to fix a huge mistake. They bought a property, they overpaid for it.
Gotcha.
One. Now they overpaid for a property. They overpaid based off of a pro forma. So they thought they were going to be able to squeeze a lot more out of the rents. But rent stabilization comes down and they don't change all the rules to be as sweet as everybody thought they were going to be.
Gotcha.
So now they're not getting those increases. But they have a hard reset coming on their loan. They have to do that loan, but they can't because it's not cashing out. So now you're in a situation where you might lose that building. And that's happening all over New York City. People who overpaid are losing properties left and right.
Left and right. Yeah.
Okay, now here. I mean, I have a client and he says, Paul, he says, you keep telling me stay away from some of these deals. They're too expensive. He says, but I go on social media and I see all these guys closing deals. You get certain papers, papers of the trade, and they're telling you who's buying what and what they're paying for it. I says, here's what you do. Next time, here's an experiment. The next time you see one of those buildings that's traded, let me know if these guys are young or old. He called me back. He was like, Paul, they're all young guys. I said, I rest my case. Experience is key in this business.
Yep.
They want to just get their face out on social media. What do? They go out, they syndicate, they borrow money from everybody and their mother, and they go and try and buy a deal. They make the deal so much so that they could buy it. I'm telling you, the chances of them keeping it are far more slim than their ability to buy it.
And that could hurt everybody that's involved with the deal.
Hurts everybody involved. Think about the people who loaned them their life savings to buy a building. They had faith in them, family members. Oh, yeah, you know what? Let Junior go out and buy this building. Let Stevie, Bobby, Joey, whatever the hell his name is, go out and buy this building. Let's help them out.
Yep.
No, stay away.
No good.
Stay away.
Wow. And that goes to speak. It's, and that's the side of it people, I think, misconstrue real estate from a business to a game.
Yeah.
Is going out there, this isn't a monopoly board.
Exactly.
This is real life. If you go out there and try and buy a property with, that term OPM, other people's money, and it doesn't work, you better figure out a game plan to pay everybody back if you're even capable of paying everybody back. And who has kids, who owns personal houses to now next thing you know, the domino effect comes into play and everybody's losing everything because of a dream, because they thought they were playing Monopoly.
Yeah. Yeah. And these stories happen all the time. I'm reading something about a guy, 10,000 units, losing it all. Imagine that. Imagine growing to that size.
And losing it all.
And why does this happen? Comes down to overpay, over leverage. That's what it comes down to. You overpaid, you over leveraged.
So when you get into it, you want to balance a healthy balance of your money and the bank's money.
Again,
to make it work.
25% down is what I'm taking out of my pocket.
That's it.
Okay? And you could keep that formula and reset that loan every 5 years. Commercial money, at a minimum, is resetting every 5 years. So now, in 5 years from now, you will have to have appreciated through upside and normal appreciation for a market. My formula is to be able to do a cash out refi and take that money out along with my principal pay down and put it into another building. Okay, so that one building bought me another building.
So you're basically just recycling your money.
I recycled that same money over and over and over again.
Beautiful.
That's people are not patient in this industry. They just keep thinking, oh, I'm going to go out and buy a building, and then I'm going to buy another one. No, take your time.
Yeah, don't rush.
Yeah, there's no rush in this business. You'll get hurt.
Yep.
You will get crippled. 10,000 units. He's losing it all.
I can't even imagine what's going through his head.
Imagine the amount of money that portfolio is worth. It's $1 billion portfolio.
Yeah, I was going to say billions.
Yeah. Imagine losing it all.
It's terrible. So we're at the point of the episode where we're going to start winding down a little.
Yep.
And before we cut the camera, I want to ask you, for the people that are listening to this, the newer, men and women that are breaking into the real estate market. I know we covered a lot, but just a quick bullet list. What are the top 3 skills and factors that a person should possess when breaking into the real estate world so they can buy properly and they don't get hurt?
I mean, I can rattle them off easily. The top 3, patience, common sense. There are so many. It's hard to just throw 3 out there. I mean, I could just keep going. You need to have patience. You need to have common sense, and you need to have the ability to see the forest from the trees. You need to know. You need to know when people are bullshitting you, because it's going to happen. You know what? Let's just call it have an education. And I don't care if your education is book education, business experience education, or a street education.
Gotcha.
Okay? Because they're all going to help you.
So let me ask, just on the education piece, did you go to college?
Nope.
And the reason I asked that is because I already knew you didn't go to college because you and I spoke about it, but I want people to hear that, because I think everybody gets so stuck on, if you're not college educated, you're not going to be successful. But sitting in front of me right now is probably one of the most successful people that I've had on this podcast. No college education, but very educated in life and the avenue of life that you decided to take. And we were having this debate. I was in Aruba last week with family, and we were sitting around the table, like 15 of us. In life, is it more important to be book smart or street smart?
Street smart.
That's what I said.
Street smart all day long.
Because the characteristics I feel a person possesses when they have that life experience, you're more apt to grow into adverse situations and figure out how to conquer them and come out on the other side, I feel. And your way of thinking is more, I guess, flexible, opposed to a person that... I'm not knocking college education in any way, shape, or form. Some of the most brilliant people I know went to college. They're extremely successful. But there's the masses that don't go to school that need to understand that you can be successful without going to college.
1,000,000%. With street smarts, you have the ability to quickly make a decision.
Yes.
Okay? Because you've seen the outcome before it's arrived. With a book education, you have not seen the outcome. You've only read about it. So now what happens? You read one page. Well, this can happen. Now you got to turn the page to find out what else can happen. Let's call it, you get paralysis through analysis. You then become unable to make a decision, which with street smarts, you know the importance of making a decision and making it quickly and correctly.
100%. I love that.
Yeah, man.
Listen, Paul, I really appreciate you coming on the episode today. I'm going to shake your hand here. Thank you very much. And for all the listeners, I just wanted to cue in real quick. Paul Carassone has his own book here called Shoulda Listened. Paul, tell them, where can they find this book if they're interested in buying it to learn a little bit more about what you have to say?
Well, I don't know who Paul Carassone is, but I can tell you.
Did I pronounce your name wrong? We're gonna have to cut. We're gonna have to cut this part real quick. I'm gonna redo this.
Leave it, man. Let it roll. That's all good.
Let it roll.
Yeah,
It's
let
funny.
it roll.
No, Carassone.
Yeah, but you
I
can
apologize,
get. Yeah,
Carassone.
that's all right, man. You can get Paul Carassone's book at his website, paulcarassone.com.
I was so locked into the conversation we just had, I forgot how to pronounce your name. I apologize.
It's all good, man. It gets butchered at least 5 times a week.
Does
It's
it?
okay, of course.
I just made it 6.
Week is young.
And we're only on Tuesday.
That's right.
No, so listen, Paul, again, I really appreciate you coming out. A lot of people out there know you as the property boss, but Paul Carassone, I'm happy to have been sitting here with you today, and I really appreciate the time that you gave myself and the listeners of the podcast to give some insight on the real estate investment world and a little bit of an inside look on how you think. And I really appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Pleasure's mine.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all the listeners for tuning in to another episode of the Beyond the Blueprint podcast, powered by Lapolis Electric. Have a great day.